Honda announced today it is partnering with the Ontario government to invest $857 million over 3 years in its existing Ontario assembly plants. The province of Ontario will kick in 10% of that amount. It's not clear if any new Honda jobs will be created, but it is another reminder of the competitive nature of the global automotive industry. Here's what Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne had to say about her government's investment.
And it's also to create those opportunities and jobs in the supply chain, because as this plant expands, there are supply chain opportunities that grow. So from my perspective, it's about consolidation, but it's also about new opportunities in the region and beyond.
Today's announcement is not the first time Queen's Park has anteed up to help Honda since it started manufacturing in the province. Honda Canada built its first vehicle assembly facility in Alliston, Ontario in 1986. In 1996, Honda built a second truck assembly plant. In 2006, then Premier Dalton McGuinty pledged 10% of the company's $154 million investment to build a new engine plant. That investment created 340 new jobs. Premier Wynne acknowledged the province's $85.7 million conditional grant is not buying any new jobs, but it would help protect 4,000 good jobs. She called the investment a vote of confidence in Ontario. Jerry Chenkin is the CEO of Honda Canada. So now, Jerry, they're calling this a global lead plant. What exactly does that mean?
Well, whenever we produce a new product, or a full model change of a product, in this case it's the next generation Civic, there's one factory that has the honor and the privilege of leading the global development of the manufacturing capability for that product.
And this is the first time it's been done outside of Japan, I understand.
That's absolutely correct, and it is a huge vote of confidence for the associates that we have working up at Honda of Canada Manufacturing.
And how did that come about? I understand that you really have to present a business case to say this is why this plant should be in Canada, should be in Ontario. How did you do that?
Well, it's basically what we have to show is that our products are competitively priced, and that we can make a good business case. But that's the hard side of the business. The soft side is we need to have the people who can get this job done. And the truth is that up at HCM, up at Honda Canada Manufacturing, we have probably the most skilled labor force that exists in the Honda network anywhere.
Well, of course, that's wonderful to hear. But at the same time, I'm thinking about all those other economic pressures that we hear about when these kind of decisions are made, when plants perhaps are not coming to Canada. We hear about the exchange rate, we hear about the cost of doing business in Canada, the higher wages. For example, we just saw Ford opening a factory in Mexico. How does this skill level, how do you trade that off against all these other costs, frankly, of doing business here?
Well, it's a good question. You know, when you're calculating the cost of manufacturing, there are literally hundreds of items that impact the overall cost. So what has happened in the last 4 or 5 years since the dollar reached par and all of the challenges of manufacturing generally in Canada were exposed, we had to close the gap with the pricing of our American plants, which are producing exactly the same products that we do.
So how do you do that? How do you close the gap?
You identify every single element in the cost of the vehicle, and then you have a group of dedicated people up at the factory who've spent the last 4 or 5 years working day in and day out to reduce every cost possible to narrow the gap down to the US pricing.
So obviously the fact that it's coming here is a good sign. How important was this money that obviously is coming from taxpayers, 10% of the investment?
It was an important part. It was necessary for us, again, to close the gap and to ensure the competitiveness of our factory in Alliston.
I know that this is the way it's done nowadays, right? We're competing against states in the U.S., other countries, et cetera, and the government is constantly getting involved. How do you justify that? Like, I'd like to hear in your own words, why is it necessary for the government to put money into this sort of a thing?
Well, it's a good question, and I'm sure once people see the new products coming out of that factory in the next couple of years, that they will understand that the investment was worth it. We have protected 4,000 high-paying, highly skilled jobs in the factory, and there are many, many other jobs from the spin-off that come from the spin-off through the 15,000 suppliers that we have across the country.
Yes, but why in the first place does the government, do taxpayers have to put in 10% of the investment to a private company that's presumably going to make lots of profit from it?
In order to be competitive, we have to look for every opportunity to reduce our costs. This partnership with the Ontario government was just one way to make sure that we are as competitive as we can be.
I think people always want to see that the taxpayers getting good value for these type of investments. And as you say, with time, and when we see the vehicles coming out, and that, as you say, these jobs are being protected, there is never a promise, though, really, is there, that the jobs will stay here?
Absolutely correct. But what we have done is secure for the next many years, because of the investment that's being made in tooling, equipment, education, training, all of the logistics innovation that is being done using this money, that we have a very, very good chance of keeping the factories going for many, many years.
What's the lifespan of a factory? And once you put in, as you say, all that training and innovation and equipment, et cetera, how long do they stay up to date?
I think it's a constant evolution. A factory doesn't have a lifespan. The insides have a lifespan. So you have to consistently innovate, which is what is being done right now, and you have to lead and have the best possible technology available. And again, that requires constant investment.
We heard the Premier talking about all the other jobs that then are supported through this type of an investment. And I'm just curious to know a little bit more about Honda's supplier network. How big is that in Canada?
Well, we have 1,500 suppliers. We have 280 auto dealers. We have 300 motorcycle and power equipment dealers across Canada. And directly and indirectly, we're employing about 19,000 people in this country.
Wow. Jerry Chenkin, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for your time.